You're listening to Achtung Millwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Birmingham. Accept no substitute.
Passion by the players has to be there. You know, the fans need to see that. My team's always had that, and that won't change now. I want to build that belief in the players and the confidence in the players. I want them to see me stand on the sideline, leading them as a Millwall person, as a leader of the football club, as the head coach. Want them to be able to look at me and know I know what it takes to succeed at this football club.
Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to part 2 of Achtung Millwall. My name is Nick Hart. On what has been quite an extraordinary day in Millwall history, we speak, of course, of the amazing return of Neil Harris after 4.5 years back to the management of Millwall Football Club. Joe Edwards departing. His career began with Sheffield Wednesday, a win, and ended with Sheffield Wednesday, a loss. More about him in a little bit. But that voice you just heard there was, of course, the man of the moment, Neil Harris, club legend, player and manager, entwined with Millwall Football Club. I don't think that's too much of an exaggeration to say. But this is a voicemail show, dear listeners, and I've already done one Twitter space. It's called X space, Twitter space anyway, with the boys earlier on. That's on what is now going to become part 1 of this 2-parter midweek show. Most unexpected, dear listeners. But so we're going to have, I've asked for a voicemail reaction. We had a huge amount of voicemail reaction, as you can expect, to this stunning news today. So I'm going to play that very, very shortly. Normally I would try and do some comment on the messages, just a lot this week, listeners, as you will probably expect in these circumstances. I'm just going to play the voice notes one after the other. Huge thank you to everyone that's contributed, and huge thank you to everyone that supports the show. It's an extraordinary day. The club's message has gone out now, and it's official that Neil Harris is going to be our head coach, not manager. I don't know why that distinction is being made, but that's probably a conversation for another time. I just want to mention, if I may, before I begin the voicemail notes, with Joe Edwards. Came to us in October with great fanfare, with a very good CV, you know, top references, all the rest of it. And his aim was one that I personally applauded. And, you know, there's a lot of opinion that's been divided online about the merits of bringing back Neil Harris, and that some are calling it a backward step. That remains to be seen. Obviously, survival is in the Championship is the prime target. And the results didn't help Joe at all. I remain convinced, absolutely 100% convinced, that this squad have failed Joe Edwards, and that leaves a taste in my mouth, dear listener. You can, you know, debate till the cows come home the merits of the Joe Ball, the idea that we can play a high level of football. I don't think this squad is capable. They proved capable of it in short doses, a decreasing amount of doses, but when played at its best, it was a brilliant thing to watch. I really enjoyed the brief flowering of Joe Ball under Edwards, and for me it remains a shame, a sense of what if that he's departed. That then his connections were bringing in some quality players, and you know that's now in the past. So football is a ruthless business. The league table is the ultimate job interview CV, and we were heading downwards. But as I've said, I'll make the point one last time: this squad failed Joe Edwards. I don't believe it was the other way round. And he personally, I wish him all the best. I think he will make it. I think he's got a lot going for him, and he will make it in the game. But anyway, that's that. So the club message has gone out on the official email today to unite, and I'm behind that 100%. We've got to put the shambles, no other word, for recent performances behind us. And we've got 13 cup finals to survive in the Championship. Can it be done, dear listeners? One thing is for sure, that with, you know, our backs to the wall and the situation being, you know, written off as desperate, underdogs par excellence, that's Millwall at its best. That's what I want to see. At the end of the day, I hated what we'd become on Saturday and in midweek against Ipswich and some of the other games recently. I did not like the division in the Den. We're at our best when the team and the fans unite. And that was actually the message that came over very well in Bomber's we know him so well, his return video put on the official club site. It's a Herculean task ahead of us, and we're going to need to pull together to achieve it. The squad can start that process at St Mary's on Saturday with 100%, nothing less than 100% from each player that takes the field will do me. And I personally hope that we collectively get behind Neil Bomber Harris. David Livermore's back. Some will call that a return to the past, and I get all that. But for 13 games, we've got to look forward. We've got to survive. And I can't think of a better man to do it in these circumstances. There we are, dear listeners. I just wanted to say that to start off this particular show. I'm not going to say any more. I'm going to now run all the messages that I've received, and there's quite a few, as you'll hear, back to back. And I want to say a big thank you to everyone once again for contributing. If you want to contribute to the show, hit me up on X. Direct message me. You can send sound files. We can exchange mobile numbers. You can send me voice notes, whatever you want to do. It's great to have a wide range of contributors. I really like that. Anyway, here's the first voicemail. Thank you for listening, dear listeners. Arrivederci Millwall. Bye for now.
Hello?
Hello Nick, Vinny from Block 2, just sitting on the tube on the Piccadilly line, just seen the news that looks like Bomber's coming back and Joe Edwards is going out. Just a very quick thought for me. We know that Bomber isn't a master tactician when it comes to new ideas, but what he does, he gets the players up for the big games. I could probably count on one hand the number of big games that we lost, especially at home. If you look at the cup runs, the playoffs, we won those games. He gets the crowd. Will we be getting to the Premier League anytime soon? No. Under Neil? I don't think so. Do I think we've got a better chance of staying up with Neil rather than Joe? Yep. Let's just say I'm glad I got a ticket for Southampton on Saturday. Could be a decent atmosphere. Coming you lines.
Hello, Nick. It's Angelo, mate. Thought I'd give my little say about the ongoings today. Obviously, at this point, club has announced Joe Edwards has gone, but they haven't announced Neil Harris, but it looks like he's coming in. All I want to say is I'm gutted that it never worked for Joe Edwards. I was backing the guy all the way. And when you think of like sliding door moments, yeah, I look back at that unbelievable performance against Middlesbrough, and then I remember Jake Cooper should have just tapped us 2-0 up, and yet he managed to hit the bar and it goes out for a goal kick, and then we lose that game 3-1. If we go 2-0 up there, I'm sure we see the game out, and you just never know what might happen from that point on. But it's just like it's a massive turning point in Joe Edwards' time at Millwall. I think that ball hitting the bar by Cooper. But I'm glad it didn't work out for the guy. I wish him all the best. We did see bits and pieces of great football, but we can't risk going down, mate. We cannot risk losing that 5 million or whatever it is you get next year. I think it's $1 million or just under $1 million or just over $1 million in League One. It's a massive difference to a club like ours. Regarding Neil Harris, obviously I see all the haters. At the end of the day, we needed someone to come in and do an emergency job. Who could have done an emergency job? Maybe Big Sam. Yes, he managed West Ham, but he did play for us years ago. Nigel Pearson. Neil Harris, mate, Everybody's hating on Neil Harris already. Again, I'll always back the manager, whoever it is. And all I will say to the haters out there is I believe it's about 5 years since he left us. So we're gaining a Neil Harris with 5 more years of experience in football management, mate, yeah. And he done a reasonable job at Cardiff. Believe he got him into the playoffs. He got sacked with them at mid-table, I think. He took over Gillingham, but they were third in the league when he got sacked there. He started to do a good job at Cambridge. So we are gaining a more experienced Neil Harris. And at the end of the day, mate, there will be no passengers in these last 13 games with Neil Harris, in my opinion. If anybody's going to get the best out of the club, out of the players, it's going to be Neil Harris. If anybody's going to turn our home form and our home stadium back to a fortress, I think it's Neil Harris. We've got 13 games to left. I believe we've got three hits, okay, which is Saturday away at Southampton. We've got away to Leeds, and we've got a home to Leicester. If we can get anything out of them 3 hits, it's a bonus. It's the other 10 games that I'm more concerned about, and it's the other 10 games that the players and Neil Harris have to get a result from. So I'm optimistic as always. I'm going to back Neil Harris, and I just hope that we're going to get a much more experienced manager. And listen, he loves us, and we love him. And hopefully he'll turn it around for us. So let's watch this space. But yeah, good luck to Mr. Neil Harris. Come on, you Lions.
Hi Nick, Simon Fay, just calling in on the news of Joe Edwards being sacked and Millwall taking the backward step of appointing Neil Harris. Did the last 8 years of Millwall Football Club actually happen, or have we suddenly time travelled back to 2015? This smacks just of the club, as you said on your space, placating the fans and basically stopping the riot in the car park. If we go down in the summer, which I still think we will, but Harris knows how to galvanise some players. Definitely knows how to get a Millwall crowd on side. 13 cup finals, we'll see how it goes. There's still a riot at this club, and it's not Joe Edwards. This starts right from the very top. This is at Kavanagh, this is at Aldridge. I think those two need to be following Joe out the door. I think they're running this club like their personal plaything, and it's not theirs. I think they're giving James Verrilson duff information. I think he's relying on them to help him out after the death of his father, because I think JB Senior was keeping a very close eye on what was going on, and those two wouldn't do what they were doing under his leadership. But once he passed, God rest him, I think they had carte blanche to basically do what they liked, and I think we're seeing the fruits of that now. I may be wrong, but we'll see. Anyway, on to Southampton on Saturday. We'll see what happens there. Has anyone got Jimmy Abdu's number? Anyway, come on, you Lions.
Hello, Nick. It's been a while. I didn't want to keep messaging when we'd lost, because it felt like I was being negative. But to be honest, mate, that was every weekend. So I hadn't heard from you. You haven't heard from me for a while. That's why. Interesting appointment, I will say that. But I'm excited. Listen, we all love a bit of Harris, don't we? You know. So let's see. It's a shame that it didn't work out with Edwards, but I think we kind of guessed the writing was on the wall from the off early days. You know, it was that sort of thing that I think I mentioned before. I wondered how the players would respond. One, he was young, and two, he'd not played, he'd not managed, and you know, sort of when the chips are down and you're telling people how to do things and bollocking them, no matter how much they like you or you like them, you'll be thinking in the back of your mind, fuck off, mate. Do you know what I mean? You know, I just think that's how the world is. You know, could be very wrong there, but again, like, if I didn't see this happening, because obviously he's at Cambridge and he's doing quite well there. He's took them out of the relegation places and he's moving up the table. I think apart from the Bolton game, he'd won the last few. But yeah, if anyone's up for a fight and who really cares about the club, because let's be honest, this ain't going to be about money. This ain't going to be about, you know, even like I'll get a bonus or whatnot. I think he's just Mr. Millwall, and he's happy to help, and to have the chance again. Yeah, it ain't going to be short term. I don't think it's not going to be for 4 months. I think he's going to get given the job, and it's only fair. if he keeps us up as well, I think on that that will probably be the main bonus, that he keeps the job and we go into next season. Listen, he's gone away, he's learned. I like to think that he'll come back with fresh ideas. He would have grown, and listen, he'll get them fucking work-shy fuckers playing, and he'll make sure they've got a bit of bollocks about him. He'll get stuck in, because if there's anyone we're going to back as our manager in this fight, it's Neil Harris. So anyway, onwards and upwards. Come on, you Lions!
Hello, Nick. It's just Adam Wicks here, just leaving a quick voicemail after today's seeming news that Joe Edwards is leaving and he's going to be replaced by Neil Harris, of all people. Caught me off guard a bit, if I'm honest. Was expecting Edwards to be relieved of his duties. Amazed, I think, as I said in my voice note after the Sheffield Wednesday game, amazed it sort of hadn't happened even by the time I left the voice note. Even more amazed it didn't happen on Sunday. Probably the right thing to do, but I do feel like he has been fully thrown under the bus to a degree by the club and the players, which is really poor, really, really poor. And, we shouldn't forget about that. Just in terms of Harris, I mean, we were kicking some ideas around on the train home on Saturday, and a lot of the people we were sort of coming up with were sort of arse kickers, people that would get the players working as a unit, fighting, possibly playing slightly limited tactics. And to be fair, Harris wasn't actually a name that we even considered or thought would be a possibility. I've no idea how it's going to play out. I think if you want to tap into the potential emotional cauldron that can be the Den, I probably can't think of anybody better to do it. Is it a long-term answer? No. May it be something that gets us over the line and stops us going down? Possibly. I think probably more likely with him than with Edwards. Yeah, so, all I can say is he'll have my full back until the end of the season. And, I hope everybody gets behind him and Livermore and, and the team in whatever guise that takes, and we just all get on the same page and try to pull some results out of the bag. I think, there's much bigger conversations around the general governance of the club, which I think is pretty, is really unacceptable. But that might be a conversation for another day, or post season potentially. Onwards to Southampton. Didn't see this coming. I think, going to be interesting to see who plays, where they play. I can see Fleming being deployed as some sort of auxiliary target man up front alongside Obafemi or Bradshaw potentially, and we'll get maybe a little bit of Millwall chaos at the Den. Yeah, don't know what to say. Anyway, that's it really. Let's hope we can pull a miracle out of the bag at Southampton. Come on, you Lions.
Hi Nick, Lawrence Binney here, calling in after the surprise announcement that Neil Harris is returning as manager. Not so surprising that Edwards has left. Maybe a surprise that it didn't happen on Sunday or Monday, but that's neither here nor there. They often say about culture nowadays, don't they? And it's all pastiche. You've got Oasis and the Rolling Stones headlining Glastonbury decades after they were relevant. Remakes galore. Just big whole-scale adaptations of comic books that no one's read, that again were big in the 70s and 80s, not so much anymore. And I kind of feel like football has been largely insulated from that culture. I think football has come along, at least on the pitch. I think it's regressed off the pitch in many ways, but in terms of quality, it's come along quite significantly. I mean, you've only got to look at Man City from 1999 to the current day, and it's almost a different sport that they're playing. But Millwall, I mean, God bless Millwall Football Club. I think we are thoroughly in keeping with the cultural times. We are definitely looking back on the past with rose-tinted specs and trying to recreate a glory days, which just don't really exist anymore. 4-4-2, up and at 'em football, wingers, etc. I like that football in theory, and I think it worked well under Harris the first time round in that first season back in the Championship. But it's certainly not a long-term recipe for success anymore, is it? I've got to say, actually, kind of contrary to the tone of that opening of this voice message, that I am my first reaction was actually excitement. I was born in 1990, so I am of the age. Or of that generation of kind of young Millwall fans that had Harris as their first hero. Eiffel, Reed, Sadlier, Cahill generation. So yeah, I do think there is some merit in the idea of kind of playing on the nostalgia of Millwall fans and trying to get the club together, united. For what is going to be a critical few months for us until May to try and keep us in the division. But I'm just sort of at a loss as to what the club is doing at the moment, and I feel like I actually felt quite encouraged, and I think it was a right decision to appoint Joe Edwards when we did. I know it hasn't worked out, but from Alex Aldridge and Steve Kavanagh's point of view and the board, I think they were looking at the squad and the club and thinking, well, we're probably not in any real danger of going down. We're not having a good season relative to the few before under Rowett where we were challenging for the playoffs, but we're in a sort of steady position. And I think you see that in the scouting as well. We're kind of looking to foreign markets and perhaps renewing our links in Ireland, which did so well, bore so much fruit for us in the late 90s. But that's all been thrown out the window at the first sign of difficulty, which makes me think, well, kind of what is the plan here? What is the vision? There isn't one, and I think I agree with some of the other guests that you've had in your show and the voicemails. They've sort of said, well, I think the people at the top are too comfortable and they're too close to the club, and it's become a bit of a jobs for the boys situation. Maybe not in terms of nepotism, but certainly in terms of getting in people who won't challenge their thinking and are very happy for things to kind of remain as they are. So yeah, conflicted, but worried. Even if we stay up, I think we're probably encountering the same problems again in a year or so's time. Especially with so many players out of contract. I think critically, with so much transition in the offing in the summer, with those players out of contracts, it was probably another opportunity to have a second go at a rebuild. But we won't get that now. We'll get kind of Cooper as our captain for the next few seasons until he can't walk anymore. And cloggers, So maybe that will serve as well in League One if we do go down. But yeah, we're not going to make any progress in the Championship with that approach. Looking forward to first home game back. It'd be nice to see Neil again. Come on, you Lions. Sorry to follow up that lengthy voice note with a post note, so to speak, Nick. But I left something out which I think is quite crucial and maybe ties into the idea that the higher ups like familiarity and don't want to be challenged. Harris was, for all of his positive attributes, a big believer in the idea that Millwall had a certain identity, and was quite guilty of pandering to fans about that identity. So I remember when he was criticised, I can't remember after which game it was, but I think in his last season, basically went to bat for the 4-4-2 and the long ball, and said it's the way the club plays and it's the Millwall way, essentially. And I think we have to look also to the Arrivederci Millwall situation, which is now widely accepted that Harris and the coaching staff couldn't figure him out. Couldn't figure out his best position, and so we let him go. So I think that shows that Harris probably does not have the mindset of a modern football coach if he can't integrate quality into his squad, the calibre of a player like Arrivederci Millwall. So I'm not entirely sure how he's going to deal with players like Romain Esse or even Zian Fleming, who do not have set positions and you can't pigeonhole as strikers or midfielders. I hope he's learned, but I mean, looking at his track record since he's left us, it's Cardiff, Gillingham, Cambridge. So I imagine that we won't see too much progress on that front.
Hello, Nick. Graham Payne here with just my thoughts of the events of the day. Firstly, I totally agree with the parting of ways with Joe Edwards. I feel sorry for him. I was behind the appointment and was really hoping that it would work out, but the last 2 or 3 performances have been, diabolical, and whether their players have down tools or maybe it's just too much for him, I don't know. But hopefully he'll come back into football at some point. Now on to the events with Neil Harris coming back. I'm sorry, but I just think this is a massive, massive backward step. If he'd have been coming in just to the end of the season, I would have thought, yeah, I could suffer that. And, if he's kept us up, great. But to give him an 18-month contract, it just stinks to me that they're, planning for the worst scenario, that we're in League One next season. And the fact that, Livermore's come back, Barrett's still there. It's just Aldridge and Kavanagh have got to be accountable for what's gone on. It's just, I'm sorry, the man left the club 6 years ago because he realised he was out of his depth in the Championship. Now, if by some miracle he keeps us up, I'll be the first man to say thank you very much for doing that, Neil. But that should have been the end of it. He should then have left and then we start again. But now, obviously, he wasn't going to come from Cambridge for 3 months when he had a proper, a full-time job. So they've given him 18 months. But no, it's not for me. His record at Gillingham and Cambridge, he's a League One, League Two manager, and he's not been very successful at that since he left. So, yeah, if the fact that he's been given 18 months is the real bugbear for me. I just think it's just a cheap option if we go down. If he keeps us up, then what? Do we give him another year in the Championship? I don't think I would give him a full year in the Championship, me personally, because I think we'll just be down the bottom, fighting relegation again. So, good luck to him. If he keeps us up, as I say, I'll hold my hands up and say thanks, Neil. But I'm disappointed with the way the club's gone. People say, well, who else could they have got? I'm sure they could have got someone to come in for the last 13, 14 games, whatever it is. But they've gone for the cheap option and brought Harris back. I mean, I think I'd have been more feeble to if he'd have brought in someone like Stephen Reid with him. But to bring back Livermore, who, and Barrett, I mean, is there now a thing that whoever manages Millwall, Barrett's got to be on the payroll because he's been through Harris now twice, Rowett, Joe Edwards. It's just them. Again, I keep saying it, but Kavanagh and Aldridge have got to be held accountable at the end of the season because it's just unbelievable what how these two have taken our club back. I'd say 5 years because the way they've run it is as I think you've mentioned it previously, it's a disgrace to the memory of John Berylson. Anyway, mate, I'll leave it there. Hopefully he proves me wrong. I'll be more than happy to hold my hands up and say, as I said earlier, well done, Neil Harris, but I can't see it myself. Come on, you Lions.
Joe from Chicago here. What a way to wake up today. News of Joe Edwards fired, and what is the solution? Bring back Neil Harris? Wow. You hear the stammering. I don't know how this is the solution. I would also like to know the payout schedule for Mr. Edwards. The club has the ability to pay out his contract and his assistant's contract and Rowett's contract and now can pay Cambridge for Harris. Why wasn't that money going towards players in January? That's what it should have been used for. Now, I guess we're going to go from losing 3-0 to being up 1-0 in the 75th minute and losing 2-1. I don't know. I don't think this team is structured properly for Harris ball. I understand why the team would do this, thinking it would reinvigorate the fans, but I'm going to need to see this work on the pitch before I'm convinced because, boy, am I skeptical. Either way, cheers. Hope everyone's well.
Hi, Nick. Thanks for allowing us to voice our opinion via the voice notes on a day of change at Millwall Football Club. The return of Neil Harris. Bye-bye, Joe. Hello, Neil. From my point of view, it's and everything I'll say is nothing detrimental to Neil. What he did for the club, how he got back to his playing career after his illness, and how much effort he put into the club in when he was manager and coach. Everything I'll say is not detrimental to him. But what I see now is a club resigned for the fact that we are prepared to play in League One next year. When Joe Edwards was appointed, arguably, yes, he was an unknown, and he obviously said the right things during his interview and made the board accept him as our coach / manager, whatever you want to call him. The style of football was encouraging to see, but I've said it on numerous occasions, mate. It's all about the period of transition. Now, it was going to be a rocky road ahead because it was a new experience for him and a new experience for Millwall because we've got a style of football that we're going to play, and it is going to change overnight. And as we all say, you can't, as I think it was Aaron said, you can't drive a Peugeot 206 in a Formula One race. It's the quality we had of players on that pitch doesn't represent what Joe Edwards wants to bring to Millwall, but he would have done if he had time, because he would have got his players in. But unfortunately, something in the last 8 weeks has happened. And I do believe, and I'm sticking to my guns on this one. I do believe this is senior players speaking up and getting their way. They've obviously wanted to change. Obviously, there must have been a voice in that changing rooms. Now we can point fingers at who that could be, but definitely somewhere in the senior team, they've said something. Also, what you got to think of is that some of those players, the senior players especially, are out of contract in the summer. So is it their way of saying, do you know what? I'm out of contract. Joe Edwards doesn't want me. I'm going to down tools. I'm going to be shit. I'm going to play shit. And we're going to try and get him out. I know what I'll do. I'll get someone in that likes the way I play, likes my style, so I can earn myself a contract again. It sounds silly and it sounds very like school playground type of attitude, but it does happen in the football circuits. You know, if you know you're leaving a job, you're serving your notice, you're not going to put 100% effort into your job. And I think it's exactly the same with some of these players that are out of contract. They know that they would have known that the previous regime, now we can call it, don't want them. So their contracts wouldn't have been renewed. So what do? I'll down tools. Simples. That's me thinking very openly about this. The second point with his appointment stems from Aldridge. I mean, I don't know much about the man apart from his journalistic days, but I know full well that everywhere he's gone, it seems to be a bit of an issue with management. And I'll talk about when he went up to Stoke, they went through managers like hot dinners. He's come back down to Millwall, and lo and behold, look, we're on our third manager in one season. But he's also he has some sort of personal relationship with Harris. I believe Harris, was it not, got him appointed, or vice versa? I don't know. So it's all very pally-pally, if you like to call it. What exactly does he bring to the table, Mr. Aldridge? What do you bring to the table, mate? We don't hear from you. I really can't understand your position at the club. Don't even recall him playing football ever. So as much as we moan about Edwards not playing the game at a high level, which arguably I was one of them, well, Aldridge hasn't. I don't think he's ever laced up a pair of football boots. So what does he know about directing a football? He probably couldn't even direct traffic. So there's my other point. And I think he's the main reason why we've got Neil back. I see it also from a business point of view. We're coming up to renewing season tickets. Now, we've had tremendous sales in season tickets over the last couple of years. We go down into League One, we are not going to get that amount. So get a fan favourite. Get the bums on seats. Get the fans back. Cheer them on. That's another reason why we've appointed him. And also I just think this appointment is to assist with ensuring that Millwall don't lose as many season ticket sales for next year. Don't lose the bums on seats. In fact, it actually might galvanise your traditional Millwall fan to come back to the ground if they haven't been there for a while, as opposed to the Groupon foreigners that come across. Because trust me, I don't think there's going to be many foreigners who are going to want to watch the style of football that Millwall played under Neil. And therefore, I can see that Aldridge and Kavanagh have probably looked at it from that angle as well. But the problem is, mate, is I was really hoping it to work with Joe. And you know what? It didn't work. Fine, we get on with it. But to reappoint Neil, who, let's be honest, after he left Millwall, didn't exactly set the world alight, did he? He had a cameo playoff appearance with Cardiff. But after that, it was just lower league football teams, Gillingham, Cambridge. I mean, is that really the calibre of manager we were looking for? I mean, if you want, I mean, if they wanted to look for a replacement, I could have named a few more way up before Neil Harris. I mean, you could have gone for the likes of Alex Neil. You could have even tried your utmost to try and get someone like Steve Cooper in, which, you know, worth a gamble, but you never know. Nigel Pearson was mentioned. So there were managers out there that we could have at least chanced our arm in getting them on board as opposed to Neil. But I don't know, mate. I feel a sense of this is it. This is the peak that we will ever get to. Mid-table championship. We're going to be up and down these leagues now for the next foreseeable period of time. I think most Mill fans would love to see us at the top table, but I just really can't see it now. I could see a team that are going to, okay, let's see what happens on Saturday, you know, let's give them a chance, but I can't imagine us doing anything on Saturday. Then again, we weren't planning to, but it's, like I say, going forward, I can't see this. This reminds me of, what was it, when Johnny Dock came back for that sort of like last period of the season. I think we got relegated then, didn't we? When Johnny Dock came back in the was it late 90s. It just reminds me of this. But I know, listen, we'll support Neil. You know, he will have the fans behind him on Saturday. He'll have his name chanted with the 2,500 of cracking on over to Southampton. But, you know, it is just, I don't think we're just papering over very, very large cracks. So everyone's got their opinion on it. Some are happy about it. Some are negative about it. I just can't see where this is going to take us apart from League One. So roll on Saturday, and hopefully I'll see you down there, mate.
Good evening, Nick Hart, mate. Oh no, not good evening, sorry. I'm at work now. Good morning, Nick Hart. Bobby T here, and I'm fucking happy, mate. The clown has left, and Mr. Bomber Harris is back where he belongs. Good afternoon, Nick Hart. Bobby T here. I just want to say one thing now, because the whole social world media are going saying, oh, Harris back, we're going backwards. And I probably get that. But you know what the biggest thing is? People feared Neil Harris's teams down the den, 4-4-2. It's the Millwall way, how you play football. Who belonged to Cooper, Morrison, Gregory? Remember them good old days? Maybe they're back now. Now teams will come down to the den and fear Millwall. Then when they come down to the den, they used to fear us. It was a hostile stadium. No one likes us. It was like a fortress den. And now that Harris is back, we can play the Millwall way. It might not be pretty, but at least it can get Millwall players that will play for the legend Bomber Harris. I don't know what's your thoughts. Take care, Nick. And one more thing, Nick Hart, because your podcast and with all the other lions, I was right from the conspiracy from the beginning, right, where I said trust the process. But didn't I tell you about the whole Chelsea mug thing and the whole Andy Myers and Chelsea fans and Mourinho and Tuchel and whoever you want to call it, Lampard as well, right, yeah? Like we're bringing back a legend. Like Lampard didn't work at Chelsea, and like now with Neil Harris, Bomber back. But did I tell you about the whole conspiracy about the whole Chelsea connection? Like Joey Edwards and the PE teacher, whatever you want to call him, and Andy Myers on Netflix watching porn all the time. Yeah, there was no tactics, yeah. And I personally think they were Chelsea ex-managers trying to take Millwall down to League One. So I think now with Harris back, we have a fighting chance now. Starting on Saturday, getting a point at the old St Mary's. Take care, Nick Hart. Bobby T. I say it how it is. Oh, wait there, one more, Nick Hart. Guess what? I've just realised. What about Uncle Fester, Adam Barrett? Is it time to go now? Because we're going to get Livermore back. Mr. Livermore, square bob sideways, our ex-midfielder. Adam Barrett now has to leave the club. Uncle Fester has to go. I don't want him anymore. Take care. I'm definitely gone now. Bye for now. Millwall. Oh, no way. I'm back for one more time. And this is the real deal now. Steve Morrison as striker coach. What about that? That's what we need now. Thank you. Good night. See you later. No one likes us. Achtung Millwall is the best.
Hi Nick, Matt Richards. Just my thoughts. It's unbelievable. I mean, it just shows you the depths we have fallen in the space of 5 months? 5 months? Was it October at Rowett left? 5 months, barely 5 months. I think something had to happen. I think Joe was taking us down, but I mean, to go back to Harris, and God knows I love the man. I think every Millwall fan loves him. But 5 months later, I mean, he left because he was taking us down to League One, 8 years ago, 7 years ago? He realised he wasn't up for the job. And so now, in times of desperation, we turn to him. I mean, fucking hell, how desperate are we? What other options were there that we've decided to go with a manager who was failing 7-8 years ago? And then since then, his coaching career has gone backwards from Championship to League One to League Two. It's just, fucking hell, just an absolute joke. I mean, serious questions need to be asked of, God bless him, James Berylson. I mean, what a season we've had. Lots of his old man, but from chairman, CEO, Kavanagh and Aldridge as director of football. Just appalling. We're attracting players. We're attracting Premier League players. Okay, Obafemi and Tanganga haven't played, but that was the calibre of player we were attracting. Now, who we're going to attract now? People are laughing and joking. Oh, Aidan O'Brien, he's getting his boots ready. We're going to have Byron Webster down there. Dunny will probably become at retirement, and TC. It's just, I don't know. It just seems such a backward step. Don't get me wrong. We're desperate, or we're in a bad situation, but it just seems like such a backward step. I hope it works out. I really, really hope it works. I hope I eat my words, and he will have a degree of support just because of the legend he is. But at the same time, Millwall fans, as he knows he left because he could sense the crowd were turning. So to think that this is going to be, everyone's going to be happy clappy because Harris is back, that's not going to be the case. We need to have results. So there's a great deal of pressure on him. In a way, I suppose it's a no lose situation because he's inherited this situation. So for him personally, he can't lose, but the club can lose. Maybe we haven't got any better options. This is the only option, but it's a sorry state of affairs that we put ourselves into the position, and this is the only option of bringing back Neil Harris. So I'm still in a state of shock, really. Just think it's just absolutely stunned. I think that's all I can say, really, Nick. Just stunned. Cheers.
Hi Nick, John Rankin here, just calling in with a quick voice note on the Neil Harris appointment and the Joe Edwards dismissal. And my take on it is this. Listen, I'm not really interested in personalities and who does what and who said what and, whose style of play is this and that. The fact of the matter is, I'm pleased because the club has made a decision. And that was in my last voice note about having a decision, having the balls to make a decision, right? Now, last season before the Wigan game, we bumped into 2 Millwall players at the services, and I said to one of them, who's an old sweat, you got to make a decision to get in the playoffs. And he said, it's not as simple as that, just make a decision. I said, well, essentially it is, mate, isn't it? I said, if you fucking make a decision, right, you're going to get in the playoffs, you're going to do it. I said, if you don't make that decision, you're not going to make it. And we were talking at cross purposes, really, and look where we are now. I'm not saying that I was a predictor of any fate, but it needs a personality. And number one, it's good news because Millwall have made a decision. They made a tough decision. It's going to cost them a lot of money because they've got to buy Joe Edwards and Andy Myers out of a contract. They've also, I think, they've got to buy Neil Harris out of his contract and then negotiate a package with Neil Harris. From what I know of Neil, he's not going to hold Millwall to ransom, and that's a good thing. It's good news. in the short term. And I feel that we've got a chance now to start up in the Championship because hopefully we're going to see those things that were lacking. You know, we all know these players are good technically. We all know that they're Championship quality players. But what they need to do is show some chutzpah, show a bit of passion, a bit of fight. You know, the only one that's done that in my book is George Honeyman, the only one that's done that. Maybe Zian Fleming's coming, but George Honeyman has gone out there. George Saville's got a couple of yellows, but I don't think they were too clever, really, to be honest with you. But for me, he should put George Honeyman as captain, get everyone up and bubbling, go for the crazy gang approach, kick, bollock and bite, and keep ourselves up in the Championship. So, well done. I'm looking forward to Southampton. I'm going to go down there and come on you Lions.
Hi, Nick. So, Glyn here. It's Wednesday afternoon, and it's just been announced that Joe Edwards has been relieved of his duties, and all the rooms are pointing towards a return of Chopper Harris back to the Den. And I think I'm very sorry to see Joe Edwards go, but the results just spoke for themselves. And unfortunately, I think what we were seeing was a worsening of performances and results since the Christmas period. We saw flashes of brilliance and some great football, but ultimately it wasn't sustainable, and the team were just gradually getting worse. So an unavoidable consequence, I think, of what was going on. Now, Neil Harris. What's he going to bring? Well, he gets the club. He probably knows the squad inside out because half of them he signed. But I think what we get from Neil Harris is a coach who has played the professional game and now managed a few different professional clubs with varying degrees of success, but a much more experienced manager than the one that managed us last time. So I would hope that he would have now more skills under his belt that would help him to manage better and be a little bit more tactically wise than what he might have been when he first managed us. And when he first managed us, he did a good job. I think he left at the right time, and he left with his head held high. But he certainly will have benefited from a bit more experience working at other places. I also think that because he's an attacker, that's something that we have desperately missed at the club for a long time. There's been so much focus on defence and counter-attacking football that I think that sort of gung-ho Millwall chaos approach has kind of drifted away from the club. So hopefully we'll see that. And I think players like Obafemi, like Fleming, possibly Amaku and Esse will learn a lot more from a coach that is more attack-minded and willing to invest in them, his time and his efforts to develop them as players. So that's positive. And I think what we'll see with Neil is we'll see a switch back to a 4-4-2 formation. So it'll be interesting to see which players survive that and come through, to sort of fit into that structure as we go into the sort of back end of the season. I'm seriously hoping that this works out. Neil's reputation, as I mentioned before, is still intact because of the way in which he conducted himself, and I personally hope that what he inherits here isn't what he inherited when he took over after Holloway left, which is a squad on a downward spiral that he had no chance to pull out of. I think we've caught this one early enough. I think if we delayed any longer, it would have been too long. It would have been too short a time for him to turn it around. But I think he's got time now, and it's really going to be a dogfight until the end of the season. And I think Neil's the guy that can probably see us through that. But it's going to be tough, and if we do it, I reckon it will be on the last day, and it will probably be 3 or 4 or 5 teams that are potentially going down at that stage. So we'll see. Anyway, I think this is a positive move. I think James Berylson has acted decisively now, seeing that Joe had really reached the end of his particular road, and I hope he goes on to do well. I have no hard feelings to the guy, and I just hope now that the Millwall Football Club can turn this season around and establish themselves for next season in the Championship. Anyway, that's it for now. And as I say, if Neil Harris isn't announced as his replacement and Neil Warnock gets the job, I'll be retiring my scarf. Anyway, all the best. Come on, you Lions. Oh, Glenn again. Sorry, one other point I think would be worth mentioning as well is can Neil Harris bring back maybe some of the other former Millwall players that have gone into coaching? I think in Alan Dunn, obviously it seems like Livermore would be coming back with him as well, which would be good. I think we should keep Paul Robinson. Be interesting to see if Adam Barrett's retained because he was obviously Harris's man, but maybe there are other. Steve Morrison, for example, who might see this as a step towards maybe taking over the top job at some point in the future as well. But that's the kind of leadership we need in the club. We need some steel and grit in the back room as well as on the pitch. All right, all the best. Take care.
Hello, Nick. Danny here. Hopefully I get this to you in time. Might not. First of all, I want to say best of luck to Edwards. It didn't work, but I think there's a great coach there, and I'll be watching him progress through his career. So I think he's definitely going in the right places. But anyway, Harris is all confirmed. Never would have guessed that one. But yeah, it's 50-50 online. There's a lot of hate. There's a lot of love for it. I personally don't mind it. I can see where the board is going with it. He knows the club. Still a lot of his players here. Knows what to do, knows how to get results. I get it though, since leaving Millwall, he hasn't done particularly well. But with someone like Harris, it just works for him at Millwall. Well, let's hope so. Yeah, so I don't think it's horrible at all. But if you love it or you hate it, just get behind him because he loves the club and he wants this to do well. And yeah, so let's see what happens. Come on, you Lions! Cheers, Nick.
Hello, Nick. Rufus here. Just wanted to send a voicemail in for the podcast about Neil Harris. Just first of all, I'm just going to talk about sort of Joe Edwards a little bit, really, and then move on to Neil Harris. It's a shame it didn't work out for Joe Edwards because I was quite optimistic when he came in because he's quite young and I thought he could succeed quite well with us. I do think he will succeed somewhere else, but it was just the wrong time for him to be at Millwall because obviously he hasn't got that experience to get us out of a relegation battle. And I was quite hoping he would get the form sorted out and see what would happen in the summer window. But I did think a change was needed after quite a few of the results we've had recently. I just thought a change was needed. And I was absolutely shocked when I saw that Neil Harris was going to be reappointed. I wasn't too sure on it at first, but the more I thought about it, the more sort of excited I am because I wasn't going to Millwall or I wasn't into football as much when Harris was at the club. So I've never really sort of seen a Millwall team under Harris before. And I know he gets sort of slated sometimes for his football and stuff, but maybe he's learned a few things since he's been away at a few other clubs. So yeah, I'm quite optimistic about Harris, to be honest. And I do think he has got more chance of keeping us up than Edwards. So yeah, I'm quite excited, I'd say. Just an optimistic, see what's going to happen, really. I don't think it is the right sort of appointment long term. I would have preferred it to have been sort of a shorter contract to end the season, but I guess we've just got to see what happens, really. But yeah, those are just some of my thoughts, really, about Neil Harris coming back to Millwall. It's quite optimistic times at the club, and it's either going to go quite well, it keeps us up, or it won't go so well, keeps us down. But if we do go down, I'm guessing he will build on the club in League One and stuff. But yeah, hopefully he'll keep us up. And yeah, like I said, it's quite optimistic times at the club, I'm guessing. And yeah, those are just some of my thoughts about Neil Harris coming back to the club and Joe Edwards leaving the club. Come on, you Lions.
Achtung, Millwall.